Kevin Bowen here. Don't forget to listen to The Fan now on 93.5 or 107.5 FM, and check out our latest coverage online at 1075thefan.com.
Here we go. Insert the GIF. That time of year, baby. Less than a month in the NFL's regular season. The Colts return from their bye week in the playoffs. The number 6 seed overall, if the playoffs started today, at Kansas City for that 3-6 matchup. Chiefs will play on Thursday night. That's a big one on Thursday night. Chiefs at Chargers, I believe, is the Thursday night matchup this week. So we are back. Another edition of Kevin's Corner, a bye week edition. We'll talk a little Patriots. We'll talk a little playoffs right here at the start. But really have just kind of compiled and gathered Twitter questions throughout the year, some big picture stuff. I thought, let's throw them all into a podcast. And what a time, Chris Presley. This is what you want, man.
Yeah.
When you are a fan of an NFL team, you want appointment viewing. You're going to get it. Saturday night this week, Saturday night next week, national attention, all eyes on you. Your hated rival you'll see Saturday night. You obviously have grown up in this market. In my opinion, Saturday night is the biggest home regular season game in the history of that stadium. A lot of people point to Peyton's return game, rightfully so. That is like the emotional pull. Like that's like, moms from Carmel crying in the stands and then getting ready to cheer for the Colts.
With split jerseys on.
Yeah, exactly. I hope Peyton plays pretty well, but we still win, blah, blah. Like, those Carmel moms are cussing at Bill Belichick on Saturday night. Venom, atmosphere. I've said it before. I've been fortunate to go to a lot of NFL venues. I don't feel like Lucas Oil is that hostile of an environment week in and week out. It better be at that level Saturday night because how you draw it up, man, it don't get any bigger.
No. And credit to one of our listeners. It's kind of funny. I feel like a event planner. He's been DMing me for the last 2 months every week. Hey, where should I stay when I come to Indy? I'm coming to this game. Okay, now where should I go pregame? Should I go to this place? Should I go to that place? Okay, now after game. And to his credit, he's like, I'm not trying to bother you, but this is big. Oh. And as we get in, and his DMs to me have ramped up as we've gotten closer to this game because it truly is, like you mentioned, one of the biggest games, if not the biggest game since Lucas Oil's opened.
I mean, I got some juice in me, driving in this morning. I feel it. And obviously, my rooting interest, is put to the side. But, how do you not get revved up for what's going to happen? Again, not only this Saturday, but next Saturday as well. I mean, that's going to be an awesome test and a much different test. I think New England and Arizona defensively, both stout, but again, much different test. With those two. So let's kind of get a little state of the union, Chris, before we get into it. 7-6. Patriots are 9-4. Right now, like I said, you're in the 6th spot. You look at the AFC picture right now. You win Saturday night, you got to fall on your face to miss the playoffs. It's not a play-in game, but, is Urban Meyer coaching the Jags in Week 17, Week 18? I don't know. Maybe that's a good thing if he's not coaching them. But basically yesterday, you got the help.
Mm-hmm.
And all along it was like, we said 5-2 at that 7-game mark out. It's like if they go 5-2 down the stretch, they're going to make it. And at this point, they're 3-1. I think 3-1. Maybe it was 2-1. So the fact that Buffalo didn't finish it off, Cincinnati, and just how crazy those two finishes were, man. You were traveling yesterday, and I know you were able to kind of watch the end of it. But, at one point, and it felt like it was simultaneously, Cincinnati is in the red zone, or at least at the 20. They score a touchdown, they win the game, first possession of overtime. Buffalo, they almost got inside the 10. I don't know if they got inside the 10. Man, if you're a Bills fan, the doorstep of that Titans game, the doorstep of that Bucs game, and now Josh Allen's banged up. If those two go against you, that can totally change things. But you got those. The division, I think, continues to be a long shot with Tennessee taking care of Jacksonville. But I think this team can be a dangerous out. And talk about Indianapolis. Now the question is, can you do your part? The other teams did their part in kind of helping you. Can you do your part and take care of business?
It's hard too as a fan. Like when I was like Kevin mentioned, I was traveling on vacation last week for business for some of the part. Thank you for Eddie Garrison for filling in. I was out in Washington D.C. and then went to my niece's graduation at Appalachian State. I'm sitting there.
A beautiful campus, by the way.
Really beautiful campus. Yeah. I'm sitting there watching the Patriots. You naturally want to root against the Patriots. But you're also sitting there like, well, if the Bills lose,
right?
I mean, the Colts.
And how about that game? I mean, that game,
the wind went
down to the wire too,
yeah.
and that was a wild game.
Right.
But like, I forgot about that game. That game seems like eons ago. Like,
yeah.
Dude, the NFL and entertainment, it's incredible. It's incredible. Yesterday we're celebrating my father-in-law's. I was about to say his age. I don't know if he cares or not. He's probably never listened to a minute of this podcast. But anyways, we're celebrating his birthday. And my brother-in-law, I mean, he's got the red zone dialed up there late, man. I mean, you needed 2 screens. You needed 2. And in this market, we weren't getting Cincinnati, San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
You know, obviously, you're getting Brady against the Bills. So you needed 2 screens. And now it's Saturday night. And to us, it's a rivalry.
Yeah.
There's venom. Josh McDaniels added to it a couple years ago. He's still there. Belichick's on the sidelines. It is a rivalry. In Foxborough, it's not. And unfortunately, that's the Colts doing. Because they haven't won that game since. And Carson Wentz, I don't even know if he could drive a car the last time the Colts beat the Patriots. Like, it's been that long.
Yeah, it has.
8 in a row. I mean, the losses are, you got some 30-point losses. You got some 20-point losses. Obviously, the AFC Championship game, which we don't need to go down that path. But you got to make this a rivalry again.
Yeah.
Because it's not. Yeah, Colt Patriot, yeah, that catches an eye. But when you look at on the field, man, it hasn't been that. In the stands, though, the fact that Belichick, McDaniels, and just the Patriot colors are still there, certainly it falls into the category for this fan base here.
And we complain about primetime. We got primetime.
Oh, you got it, man.
Here it is, Saturday.
NFL Network, back-to-back
let's
Saturday
go.
nights. Yes, exactly. That's a great point. And I guess just lastly, this, Chris, before we get into the Twitter questions. You're 7-6. You go 3-1. You're in. You look at the standings right now. There's 5 teams at 7-6 with you. You are atop the rest because of that conference record.
Yeah.
And it's the holiday season. Time to be thankful and grateful for whatever. Say thank you to be playing the AFC South. And another element to this schedule: be grateful you played the AFC East, because that's a game against the Jets. That's a game against Miami without Tua. So you look at this conference, the West and the North, those are legit 1 through 4, nothing to, sneeze at. You've had 6 games against the Texans, Jags, Jets, and Dolphins. And if you look at the schedules of these teams down the stretch, you'll notice, the Browns are playing the Steelers and the Bengals, or the Broncos are playing the Chargers and there's going to be natural beating of each other up. The Colts really don't have that because, again, their division, it's a joke outside of one team. So, the Colts, and again, I'm just acknowledging what is at hand here. Last year, you benefited from the easiest schedule in the league. This year, you've benefited from another easy schedule compared to the other AFC teams. The big thing is, you've got to make sure that you cash in on that.
Right.
Because you are catching a break there in that schedule bout. Now, the fact that you beat Buffalo, and you could beat New England as well, that's you doing your own part and not just strictly beating up on the easy teams. The fact that you can control your own destiny. I don't know if that's the exact term, but if you beat New England, again, you're like a 90-something% chance of making the playoffs. You lose these 2, now all of a sudden you need gobs and gobs of help. So we won't get into all of that, but man, what a game. Venom, standings, don't get any bigger. Vinatieri on the anvil, is that who it is?
Is it? Is he going to do it?
I think so. I don't believe Vinatieri and Belichick see eye to eye. So I think
that's awesome.
When Adam Vinatieri got word that, hey, you want to come do this? We can't have Blue do it for a 3rd straight game, and Miles Turner now wants out, so we can't have Miles Turner come over and do it. So I think it might be him. So
that's
see
cool.
If Vinny bangs it on Saturday night.
No, and like you said, look, I mean, both NFC and AFC. I mean, NFC is a little more top heavy. Both of them are wide open once you get to a certain level. It's just awesome to, like you said, you look at Cleveland and other Cleveland, Bengals, a lot of these other teams that are going to beat each other up, and you look at the Colts, and it's like, you win one of these three. You beat either the Patriots, or if you beat the Patriots,
You should be in.
you should be in.
Right. And this is a team that I feel like you get in, and it's inclement weather, no one wants to see you. I mean, hell, even if it's not. I mean, we had Jeff Saturday on our morning show this morning. He has the Colts as a team he'd put above Kansas City in terms of a team you don't want to see. I don't know if I'm ready to say that, but again, the Colts are more equipped for ugliness than Kansas City is.
Right.
Ugliness at all. So,
and we're going to get to that in Twitter questions too.
That's the beauty of this conference, is that it's really wide open. The NFC a little bit more top heavy, as you said. But man, just an awesome. If you got a ticket, bring it. Bring the heat, because it's going to be an unbelievable environment inside of that building Saturday night. And what a day if you're able to go to the Crossroads Classic in the afternoon.
Right. Yeah.
And then slide over to Lucas Oil at night. So happy for our city that we get to experience that, and can't wait for Saturday night.
Yeah, not taking anything away from our crowds. You're going to be there. Kevin, when he sits up in the booth, it's hard to hear the crowd because of, it's soundproof glass. Make Kevin hear you. If Kevin can hear you, the Patriots can hear you, and they will jump off sides. We want to do everything that we can do to give the Colts the best win that they can have.
Yes.
Let's jump to Twitter questions, Kevin. First one comes from Adam. If we stay as one of the 3 wildcard teams, and who do we want to face from the AFC North in the first round? None of these teams are juggernauts. Overall, the play is inconsistent. I want to face Tennessee in the first round because the rest of Derrick Henry could be back. Or I wouldn't want to face Tennessee, I should say, because Derrick Henry could be back healthy. I also wouldn't want to play the Chiefs because they're starting to get hot. So which division-leading team, Kevin, would you want to face?
Well, it's a good question. I would say Tennessee. Is Henry really going to be the same Henry? That could be his first game back. Ravens are an interesting bunch. We'll see if Lamar Jackson's going to miss any time. You had some big quarterback injuries. I have a lot of respect for the AFC North, but that's a division that I'm not really sold on anybody in that division. So I think that's something that you would factor in. But if you're going to say, all right, division winner, who do you want to see? I want to see Tennessee. I know they've beaten you twice this season. I think that would add to it. The old adage of it's hard to beat a team 3 times. I think that plays into it as well. And, who knows where A.J. Brown is? Julio's been really banged up this year. Sure, they shut out the Jags yesterday, but, I'm still not sold on them in terms of playing their best football. I don't love their defense either. I would say Tennessee.
Okay. I agree with that. We got one from Twegman. Belichick likes to take away your number one weapon. Offensively, we have Jonathan Taylor and Michael Pittman Jr. Who do you think he takes away, and how do we move the ball on their defense?
Well, I think ideally he'd take away Taylor. That's what he wants to go for. I think if you're putting Taylor and Pittman on a board and say who's more threatening to you, it's Taylor versus Pittman. Their secondary has been really good as well. They haven't really been that great against the run. I feel like we kind of look at New England and assume they've been really good against the run. They've been kind of below average, really. So I'm assuming he's going to commit some resources to taking away the run. And then in a way, I think they will commit, a little extra attention to Pittman. But, there's probably an element of Belichick that's let's see if Pittman can take over a game. I think that's kind of the next step in his evolution. Obviously, he's made a big step here in year 2. But still, I think that's something that, could be a huge factor. Is that Devin McCourty helping over the top? J.C. Jackson, I think, has become more of a household name at corner for New England. I think they're a little banged up in the secondary as well. Matthew Judon, I saw, went out on that Monday night game. Damian Harris went out. We'll have to see his status as well. So, I think a big thing down the stretch, Chris, can you find a third skill guy? Taylor. Pittman. Teams are clearly, and you're going to play 2 legit defenses the next 2 weeks, teams are clearly going to try to take away one, and ideally both of those guys. Is Hines going to be there? Can Allie Cox finally kind of show up after a really quiet last month or so? Ashton Doolin has kind of been a guy here as of late. Do you get Paris Campbell back? Can Campbell stay healthy? So I think those are just some interesting questions here that are really critical to further, I think, making sure this offense stays at the top level now that you're playing better defenses.
Yeah. I got a statement and then a question for you real quick, Kevin.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, Hines, like you mentioned, I love what he can do in the slot. Everyone knows the Patriots, Julian Edelman, Wes Welker, Danny Amendola, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Would love to see us finally give them a dose of their own medicine with something that someone like Hines could do. And then the question for you, we saw a couple weeks ago where we abandoned the run, quote unquote, but a lot of those could have been run-pass options. Does Bill Belichick scheme his defense to make Carson Wentz check into a pass instead of a run from Jonathan Taylor?
Yeah, that's interesting. It doesn't seem like Belichick it doesn't seem like Wentz has needed a whole lot to check into passes versus runs. That will be curious to kind of see how that chess match plays out. Because I think Belichick knows that Frank gives his quarterback that full autonomy at the line of scrimmage to do whatever. So I do think that's going to be a big, big part of this game. I mean, you look at New England's front seven, Chris, you're not going to find a lot of names. They got Lawrence Guy, former Colt, in their front seven. So it's not a lot of names. Christian Barmore's been great, their rookie out of Alabama. I'm really impressed by how New England built this thing this year. Belichick was pissed off, watching that happen last year. Pissed off watching Brady win it all.
Yeah.
And you look at their starters, I want to say it might be half are newcomers. Well, that's unheard of in the NFL. They went out and spent a ton in free agency. Obviously, they found impactful rookies from day one as well. It's really impressive what they've done to kind of say, hey, this was not just a Brady operation for 2 decades here. So I think it's a little bit of Belichick saying, watch me. It's the gif of him coming out of the tunnel against the Lions. Like, I'm not shaking anybody's hand here. By the way, one of the greatest gifs out there.
Oh, yeah.
So, how do you not love Belichick? Like, he is so wild. He looks just wild on the sideline. He acts like a robot. I think he is hilarious. I literally laugh every time they show Belichick on the sidelines and be like, that dude right there, greatest coach in NFL history. Look at him. Like,
if you Googled the phrase "marching to the beat of your own drum," Bill Belichick will pop up.
I love how he just beats to his own drum. And again, I obviously there's plenty of reasons to hate him, and I totally acknowledge that. But I just love how big of an outlier he is based off all his colleagues and how just he's been able to intimidate the entire NFL. Like, it's amazing how he's able to do it. And obviously the resume speaks for itself. So, God, he's one of a kind, man.
He definitely that is the great way to say it, one of a kind. You talked about different people potentially in the slots or different playmakers. Cody wants to touch on that a little bit when he asks a question for you. We already know his special team prowess, but do you believe Ashton Dulin deserves more looks on offense?
Boy, he's been big for you lately. I know they love Pascal as a blocker, so I think that's why Pascal continues to play as much.
Yeah.
But it seems like Dulin has made a few more of, not necessarily the deep ball you saw against Tampa, but that touchdown he caught the other day against Houston. That was kind of a Pascal type of play. So, I mentioned it earlier, Chris. Who's the third skill guy? I kind of like Dulin a little bit more situationally. I'm not sure if I want 7 targets for him or anything like that. And we'll see about Campbell. Originally it was thought to be 2 to 3 months. 2 months, I think, is Christmas, so that would bring in the Arizona. We'll talk to Frank Reich. You guys probably already know this answer by the time you've listened to this podcast. We're talking to Frank Reich just after we get done recording this podcast. But, a little bit more for Dulin, but I don't want to overwhelm him.
Yeah. Question from Jason. Remember when we look at the schedule and we see December games in New England, Pittsburgh, and Baltimore, and the uneasiness that we would have? Is it possible that cold weather teams think of the Colts the same way now?
Yeah. That's wild. Yes, I think that's definitely true. Think about the outdoor venues, Chris, in the playoffs. Like, every AFC team plays outdoors.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone. Obviously besides you.
Yeah,
that's going to be in. I guess Chargers, maybe, if they were to win the division. Hell, wasn't that?
I guess that's true, yeah.
Some part that's outdoors? I don't even know. Is that it? Raiders, they ain't making it.
Chargers, Raiders, but yeah, that's it.
So it's just now when you bring up Baltimore and New England, I think I still have fear in the Colts playing at those places. I don't know. There's just maybe that's PTSD, but yeah. In all seriousness, Jason, the Colts are a team equipped to handle inclement weather in January. Now, there's no guarantee. Obviously, the Colts have played in several of those games, but like last year in Buffalo, that weather was glorious for that playoff game.
Right.
And that obviously plays more into Buffalo's hands. So, and I don't recall too many like really ugly weather Mahomes playoff games. I feel like Kansas City's benefited from having some nice weather in those games. But certainly, and this more than ever, like you guys have heard me use the phrase, just get in the dance and get a dart and have the ability to throw it at the board. That's what the playoffs are all about, especially in one and done, especially in the NFL. You just want to get in and have a shot. There's other questions to be had, but for a team right now that is really, really healthy compared to most, playing its best football of the year, I think, and has strung it together for several weeks, months now, there's a lot of reasons why opponents, I don't think, would want to see Indianapolis show up on their side of the bracket. Yeah.
Like you said, coming off a bye, we're healthy. And listening to this podcast, and I know all of you probably already have, let's get Kenny Moore in the Pro Bowl.
Yeah.
I know a lot of those guys, sometimes it's just accolades anymore, and the Pro Bowl is kind of a two-hand touch thing, but that guy deserves to be in the Pro Bowl.
He deserves it. Unfortunately, I don't think he will. I believe fan voting, he's not even in the top 10 at his position, and I just don't think national recognition is there. So I think, I'm going to post a Pro Bowl article tomorrow, like who's deserving, who's not.
Cool.
I think I thought about it out loud. I got about a handful of guys that are definitely, I think, deserving / will get in. I think there's another name besides Kenny that I think people assume is a Pro Bowl lock, but I don't think is this year. I'll say that for the article.
It's a good tease. Love it.
But yeah, at the same time, I think I've narrowed it down to about 5 Colts I think are definite Pro Bowlers.
Okay. Awesome. Well, you guys, like Kevin said, can check that out on 1075thefan.com. Most of you follow him on Twitter, so look for that link drop as well. Kevin, we got a question from Isaac. Now that we're about 75% past the mark for Carson Wentz, what do you think you've seen that makes him our surefire first round or our first future quarterback, and what do you see that says he is not the guy?
Well, those are all good questions, Isaac. I would say the thing that I've been most impressed by Wentz this year, Chris, is just that he has found this very fine balance of taking chances and protecting the football. It's the hardest thing for quarterbacks to achieve, and Wentz has found that. It's been darn impressive to watch. And again, he's protected it from a fumbling standpoint, pretty well. That's really been his big nemesis as well. So I think that has helped him out. So I'd say that's been the most impressive. I also think, there's so many tiers to quarterbacks and what you think you need out of that position to win at a high level. Some will say, I can find now granted, Flacco had a great run when they made it to the Super Bowl, but I can find a Flacco-type quarterback, be really strong around him, and if I protect the football with that quarterback, I can win it all. Others would say, if you don't have a Mahomes or a Brady, you're not winning a Super Bowl. So I think there's these different tiers of what you need. I'm probably in the boat of you need a top 8 quarterback to win a Super Bowl. I don't think you need top 3, 4. I think that's really lofty. Sure, if you want sustained success over a decade, you probably need that type of play. I'm probably in the 8-ish boat. I'd put Wentz just behind it. The season hasn't unfolded like this, and a credit to the Colts for building double-digit leads on a routine basis, so they haven't needed to, but can Wentz go win you a game? When Taylor's bottled up, when you're down 7 in the fourth quarter. Those type of moments, can that quarterback deliver for you? I think that is something of to Isaac's point, I don't know that. And I'm not ripping the guy for it. It's not like he's been in a bunch of positions where he's down 4 late in the game and you got to get on a drive. The Colts really haven't been in many of those. Certainly not with Wentz healthy this year. Some of them, but not a lot of them. So, Are you in the Kirk Cousins group or are you not? I feel like Kirk is now the new like Flacco. Like we just put.
He's
Kirk
like the
as,
Jeff Fisher.
Yeah, exactly. Yes,
The 8-8. Yeah,
he is the Jeff Fisher. I would like to think Wentz has been a little better than Cousins, but is he at that next tier? I think you look at the AFC, Chris. I think I've mentioned this before, but I brought it up to Greg Rakestraw on Friday, and Rakestraw was shocked when I told him this. But like, you look at Carson Wentz's playoff resume. I believe he's only thrown 4 passes in the postseason ever. He tore his ACL obviously in 2017.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
and now you're looking at me like you were surprised by that.
That's I didn't even think about it. Yeah.
Yeah. So he tore his ACL in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
2019, he gets on a great run into the year, probably his best stretch of football late in that 2019 season with a bunch of kind of random dudes. They make the playoffs. They face Seattle round 1. Jadeveon Clowney knocks him out, I think, on the second series of the game. Concussed, he's done for the game. They lose. So that's it. That's his only playoff experience.
Wow.
I bring that up because I think playoff football is different.
Mm-hmm. Look
at Peyton Manning's career. Look at Andrew Luck's career. Did they go first time ever in the playoffs? Did they get on a run? Second time in the playoffs, they get on a run? No. It took Peyton, 9 years in the NFL to make the Super Bowl and win it. I mean, that's a lot when you think about Peyton Manning.
Yeah.
Andrew Luck, it was kind of a stepping ladder of get in, win a game, win a road game, and then I don't need to go anywhere else besides that. But that's where I think I'm kind of at with Wentz. It's like, it's so critical for him to taste it. Because if for some reason, above the Colts right now in the standings are the Chargers. Let's say, for example, the Bengals were to make the playoffs and the Colts don't make the playoffs, which, again, right now I think Colts are making it. But let's say that happens. All of a sudden, you look at the 4 quarterbacks from last season, the final 4 quarterbacks in the AFC, all younger than Wentz, all of them with more playoff experience. Mahomes, Allen, Baker, Lamar Jackson. Then if you throw Burrow and you throw Herbert into that group as well, now you're starting to get, oh my gosh, that's 6 teams in the AFC. That's a lot that are younger quarterbacks than Wentz, but have been in the playoffs more than him. So I think it's so key. My question at the start of the year was, is Carson Wentz your franchise QB? More than anything, that's what you got to find out. I think signs say yes, but there's still a couple of big boxes left that just mean a little bit more in the NFL, and that's all sports. Purdue could go 28-3 this year in college basketball, and if they lose on the first weekend, no one gives a shit about that. And that's unfortunately that's just the reality of it. So, Isaac, I've been pretty impressed, to be honest with you. I thought he'd kind of be in that 12-ish range. I guess he has been there, maybe a little bit better than that. But I think how quickly dealing with the injuries and the practice time missed, that's been impressive to me.
Yeah. And Kevin, sometimes people say quarterbacks make receivers. Sometimes people say receivers make quarterbacks. Rick wants to know your rankings right now from a wide receiver standpoint for the Colts. Not necessarily from a depth chart standpoint. Who do you have as 1, 2, and 3?
Oh, okay. Wow, there's some good debate, I guess. Pittman obviously 1. My 2. It'd probably be Hilton. I know it might not be the quantity, but I think you saw it on the 4th down against Tampa. I think you saw it in the toe tap against Houston. I just still think I trust him more than the others. 3 would probably be Doolin. Yeah, probably Doolin. And Pascal right now, I don't have a lot of faith in him, which is wild to say because I would never use that. And then, Campbell's a guy that as long as he's on the field, I'd put him at 3. Now, the on the field is the big question. But, when Campbell hurt his foot or whatever, he had the biggest play in the game against Houston, over-the-top touchdown. As long as he's out there, he's a huge threat for you. So, that's a good one, Rick. But, yeah, I would say Pittman, Hilton, and then, I'd probably just rather draw out of a hat.
Yeah, and like Kevin said on Twitter, it seems like Paris Campbell's going to come back against the Cardinals on Christmas, but we will wait and see. Question from Zay. He's got a 2-part here, Kevin. We'll start with the serious one first. Curious right now, what do you think the percentage of us making the playoffs is?
60. maybe a little more.
Did you follow the political guy last night on the?
Was he doing it?
Yeah,
Steve,
I think
whatever
we
his
were
name
like
is.
we were in the red. We were I think 60 or 68%.
Yeah, I want to say 538 has him at 66. I'd probably say like 60, 65.
Okay.
Yeah. And honestly, it might even be a little bit higher in my eyes. Yeah, I think. Yeah, it's. I feel good.
We're on the plus side of 50. That's what you want.
I feel good. Again, help is in your favor. Conference tiebreaker is huge. I mean, you pretty much will need all those teams to finish above you. You know, 7 teams to finish above you to get in the playoffs. Unless you like lose to the Raiders or the Patriots somehow fall into the wild card, and you lose to them obviously on Saturday, which I don't know how that would happen. You look like a team that's going to have the head-to-head tiebreaker over everybody, which is massive, massive.
And for a fun question from him, he has a hypothetical. If the Colts need to make a playoff run for the Super Bowl this year, which 3 ex-Colts in their prime give them the best chance? Peyton, Jeff Saturday, Marvin Harrison, or Dwight Freeney, Robert Mathis, and Bob Sanders?
Whoa, okay.
So you're either going offense heavy or defense heavy.
Yeah, okay. Run that by me again. Peyton, Saturday.
In their prime, you want Peyton Manning, Jeff Saturday, and Marvin Harrison on this Colts team, or would you replace the players that we have with Dwight Freeney, Robert Mathis, and Bob Sanders?
Wow. Well, first look, I'm like, duh, Peyton and Marvin.
Right.
I don't even know if I really need Saturday just because, Ryan Kelly's already a pretty good player there. But now that I think about it more, man. Like, if you're going to ask me right now, Chris, 2021 Indianapolis Colts positions of worry, I'd probably put defensive end and safety at or near the top of that list, and you are curing that for me with, if you're talking in their prime, Bob Sanders was a Hall of Fame type player in his prime. Yes. Obviously, he didn't have the longevity to merit it. Mathis and Freeney, that speaks for themselves. I'd probably go with that latter one because I think you're more desperate at those positions. And as long as Wentz doesn't screw it up, I'm good.
And I feel like in today's day and age of throwing the football, you got those 2 guys coming off the edge and Bob Sanders either coming up or dropping back. I mean, he could play linebacker. He could stop the run. He could intercept balls. I mean, that's a dangerous trio right there on defense.
Leonard and Buckner are with them and Kenny Moore in the slot. Boy, that's a good one, Zay. I would say the defensive guys. I also think about it like this. The Colts have gotten off to great starts with Frank Reich. Great starts. I was watching Belichick's press conference today. Belichick's like, best first quarter team in the NFL. You get a lead and you dial up the pass rush. So, I don't know. Maybe I'm an idiot for not picking Peyton, but I'll go with the latter.
Yeah. All right, a question from Louisiana guy. Actually, he's got 2. First one, do you think this year's struggles with the lack of playmakers, specifically at the number 2 wide receiver spot and corner, will finally, and he emphasizes finally, will make Chris Ballard go out and spend some money? If so, who do you see us going after? And also, how about the Lions win last week? What did you think about that?
I thought that Vikings corner, I had some money on the Vikings, so I wasn't happy. I thought that Vikings corner was throwing the game. Like, did he not know where the end zone was?
Right.
I couldn't believe that. But no, shout out to Dan Campbell and the fighting knee.
Biting knees off, yeah.
Okay, will Chris Ballard spend in free agency? Do you think there's a question we get more than that?
We'll get ready because in the offseason, they're going to come hot and heavy.
I'm not going to believe it until I see it with Ballard and spending. Yeah. Whenever the Colts play a team, you get pretty indebted with like that opponent for the week. So I've obviously done a lot now that the Colts had a bye week into New England. And again, what I say earlier, like half their starters are newcomers or close to half. I mean, they were so aggressive in free agency, and it's really paid off for them. You look at Ballard's free agency track record, it's not like he's been bad in free agency. Like, he's hit when he's taken swings. It's just, for me, he doesn't take enough swings. Like, he uses that too little. That is an avenue that I look at as really supporting other areas of your roster, probably a little bit more on the short-term side. You can find a couple long-term-ish things, a little bit more on the short term, but an avenue to bolster is kind of the word I always use with free agency. And I don't think he views it in that same light. But again, when he has, like a Houston, an Ebron. I mean, Ebron was a good signing. I know the second year bottomed out, but that was a really good signing on not a big level. You caught how many touchdowns that first year?
Yeah, what, 10, 13? Like, kick the tires. Why not?
Autry, obviously very good. So, you gotta think year 5, especially if you lose early in the playoffs or don't get in for some reason. That's got to be a wake up call to just alter your thinking. I understand his core principles, but I think your results have got to dictate some things. I mean, New England, clearly, they've built this great team, a great, perennial team, whatever. They have a step back last year. Belichick's thinking to himself, all right, I need to do something differently. They do it, and here they are, the best team in the AFC right now 4 weeks to go.
As always.
Don't you hate it? I mean, I just feel the venom from Colts fans when you say that.
It's just 20-plus years. Come on.
It's absurd in the NFL.
It's so absurd.
You got to hate the Patriots. Isn't that I love sports.
When I was down in North Carolina this weekend to see my brother, I was like, yeah, your neighbor came out, and he's like, that guy's a weirdo, and by the way, he's from New England. Like, that was his first. Once he found out the guy was from New England, he's like, yeah, you know what? More. All right, we're not going to get along.
Nope. Yep. Merry Christmas.
All right, Kev, from Matt, do you think the Colts upgrade at left tackle in the 2022 offseason? And if so, do they do it via trade, draft, or free agency?
Well, again, this is kind of like similar one. It's not a lock for me, this whole question here about Fisher, because he is what? December 13th, we are recording this. That's 10.5 months removed from the Achilles.
True.
If you are of the belief it takes a solid year and a half, would you ride out Fisher for another year? Now, the other question obviously becomes, what about your situation with finding a left tackle in free agency and paying him that money to come in and start? Draft, are you going to get a guy from day one that's going to be an impact guy? I don't think that's a guarantee either. So, I mean, if you're asking me right now, I still think Eric Fisher is probably your starting left tackle next year. Now, I think it's a big end of the season for him, and it's going to be a lot of projection. Maybe you don't see it from him. But I'm not writing off Fisher just yet. It's tough. You got to know medical.
Mm-hmm.
You really got to know medical and believe that he's going to get there. I mean, look at Dayo Dengbo. I mean, whisper like quiet here to start his NFL career. I'm not ripping the dude for it. He come off a torn Achilles. Like, it's hard. So, Marlon Mack, it's difficult, but it's just a reality. So, if you think they're going to get there, maybe you adjust, maybe you write it. I don't know, man. That's tough.
I mean, here's my hope, and this is not necessarily, this is kind of unfair to Eric Fisher, me saying this right now. He's 30 years old, former number 1 draft pick. We saw on the news all week, Whitworth is the first 40-year-old left tackle. I'm not saying he's going to play till 40.
Whitworth looks like he's 80.
But even if he goes another 5 years, that's 5 more years of a prime left tackle. And like you said, he's not, I don't think, completely back from the Achilles. Now, next year, if he's playing the way he's playing now, okay, you cut ties, you look at the draft board, you have to figure out draft, trade, whatever. Like you said, it's still a little tough to determine right now exactly who you have at left tackle.
I'll say this, Chris. You can't get to Saturday of the draft without taking a left tackle. And you only got 2 picks. Obviously, you got none on Thursday night, round 1. Round 2 and 3, you got a pick each. One of those got to be a tackle.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, flat out. And it should have been a tackle at some point in recent years. I don't know, 4th or 5th rounder could have been a tackle too. So, yeah.
I mean, you've always been pro that. You've always been pro running back.
Yeah. Again, it's probably my biggest disagreement with Ballard, who is, again, drafted extraordinarily well at so many spots. But for how big a philosophical belief he has in the O-line, to ignore tackle to this degree, I mean, you got a coaching staff here to develop. They have developed several draft picks. Like, find some attributes you like, mold.
Yeah. Learn
under Anthony Costanzo.
Love that. Is he still in the area? Do you know?
I don't think so. I think he lives out in Cali.
Okay.
I saw he's back at a game recently, though.
Yeah, I did. I saw that as well.
He looked good. He looked slim.
They slim real quick.
They don't mess around, man.
This question comes from Chris. Any news on Paris Campbell coming back in the next few weeks? Also, what is our plan for left tackle next week or next year, as we just talked about a little bit? And also, Chris loves the show.
I appreciate that, Chris. Thank you. Yeah, should get clarity on Campbell soon. It's a question we'll ask Frank Reich again. I thought about holding off on recording this podcast till after, but I think outside of a Campbell, Ryan Kelly update, I don't think there's going to be much. Of course I say that. Watch.
Okay, don't get confused here, Kevin. We got a question from Dakota, but Dakota's not from Dakota. He's from Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay, I got it. All right, I got it.
Colts fan. After hearing your opinion on David Bell from Purdue and researching him, he was very impressed. Feels like Pittman and David Bell would be a great duo. Do you think the Colts are going to address the wide receiver depth issue in the offseason or in the draft? And what are the chances that he would even fall to us? I know it's early for draft talks, but I'd really like to just get another reliable target for Carson Wentz. Thanks for all your content. I hope you and your family have a Merry Christmas.
Well, same to you, Dakota, and happy holidays and Merry Christmas to everybody out there. I know a lot of people are traveling this time of year, so we'll continue to have podcasts every week throughout the end of the year and into the offseason as well. Okay, well, Chris, this gets into, all right, if you're taking a left tackle in round 2 or round 3, is in the wideout, is that going to be the other pick? What about edge rusher? What about corner? It's the age-old debate when you start thinking about the draft. I wouldn't mind. I got to take a closer look at the receivers in free agency, Chris, but I know it was a pretty good class last year, so I wouldn't mind looking there. I think a 27, 8-year-old that's been in a different offense can kind of give Pittman some, pointers maybe about, a little bit of a, hey, we kind of do this way, especially if Hilton is gone, either retirement or, 1-year deal with Hilton. I just don't know if you have enough draft resources to do it there. And I also think this, Chris, we're starting to see, like David Bell, where he gets drafted will be a great debate. There's so many freaking wideouts. I know the Colts haven't hit on their day 3 drafted wideouts necessarily, which is difficult. But, like, at some point with all these wideouts, you got to think you take a chance on a 5th rounder, 6th rounder. He could turn into a Pierre Garçon type of career here. So I probably lean towards free agency, Dakota.
Right now, based on NFL mock draft database, they have David Bell going anywhere from peak at 40th overall or the latter at 59th overall. Consensus, 31st. Guess who he would go to?
New England.
Yeah.
Of course. Right?
Why wouldn't David Bell, one of the guys that we all
Mac
love,
Jones
just go to
10 years together? So 40th to 59th, yeah, that sounds about right for him.
Yeah.
Second rounder?
Yeah. All right, Wake Spike wants to know, with Paris Campbell and Mike Strawn, could we use them against the Patriots to give them a little more looks that they've not seen?
Well,
and will this work?
Huh?
And will that work?
Well, I don't think Campbell's going to be back. I'd be stunned, really, about that. Strawn, I guess that is an option. Again, I don't know how much you'd I understand the question. I don't know how much you really kind of, deviate from it too much. Granted, that third wideout has been a debate right now. I know you have. I don't know if this matters too much, Chris, but I think it's something we do. Frank Reich, 3-0 out of bye weeks. I want to say they've scored 40, 30, and 28 out of the 3 bye weeks. Now, you've played, I think it's Houston, Jacksonville, Detroit. So, you haven't played a murderer's row by any means. But still, that is something to note. So, Strawn, I understand the question. I guess I'd be a little surprised at this point.
Yeah.
But, Frank has gone to young guys late in the season before. It's not something that he's been, shying away from. So, we'll see.
Going to jump to a question from Creighton. Here it says, way too early offseason hopes and predictions. Obviously, we're not going to get a first-round pick. We will, however, have a little bit of money to play this offseason. Would like to re-sign Reed, spend some money on a real outside cornerback, and in the second round of the draft a left tackle, and then start of the third round, address either wide receiver or the back end of the defense. What are your thoughts there with his draft analysis?
Yeah, that's a decent-looking offseason plan. I mean, I don't know about you guys. I still worry about edge rusher. And I get you've invested a lot in it, but, have you found it? So I still worry a little bit about that, Creighton. But, no, I think early offseason blueprint with me not taking a huge look at it, sure.
All right, Brian wants to know, with Jonathan Taylor, especially with the leadership, now that he has Darius Leonard and people like that in his background, if Big Q gets left tackle money, what position comparison do you pay Jonathan Taylor?
Man, I haven't even thought about Taylor getting money. So what? Taylor's in year 2 of 4 on the rookie deal, so that means extension would come after year 3.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, JT's going to break the bank, right? I mean, break it. I mean, I know he is in a third down back, like maybe a McCaffrey or a Kamara or something like that, but yeah, he's going to break it. I would say look at any other running back that's signed a deal in the last 2-3 seasons, and Taylor's going to get the top end of that market. Yeah, I mean, he might not play on third down, but his durability is just wildly impressive. And so, yeah, it's the books will be interesting. The books will be interesting. Have to draft well. Have to.
Absolutely. Kevin, Jonathan has a question about one of your Fighting Irish, obviously Quentin Nelson, who you've watched far before he became a Colt, so you might know a little bit more just from watching him on the sidelines at Notre Dame. Has Quentin Nelson always been that fiery, especially when it comes to the hard knocks, about going up to Frank Reich and saying, we need to run the ball? Or was that an outlier?
No, I think that's Nelson. Nelson's nuts, man. He is. He doesn't hold back. You know, I think most players that young might be a little bit hesitant to insert themselves. And I think, you know, Nelson, we don't like. What are we, 4 episodes in?
Mm-hmm.
Has Quentin Nelson, you know, really spoken much? Like, you know, we did see the. Scenes on the sidelines, but like he hasn't been featured, I think, for a reason. I don't think,
which is fine. If you're going to speak on the field. I
right.
love it.
Yeah, I don't think Quentin Nelson's much more. Hey, come over to the Nelson household. Let's do a Cribs version here. I remember hearing a story about. Remember when Gouge got fired, the O-line coach,
mm-hmm.
Gouge, and they hired, I guess Strasser is who they hired after Gouge. So that would have been Nelson's rookie season. Nelson is sending these just like. And again, I say wild because 99% of the NFL wouldn't do it, especially 99% of guys that just finished their rookie seasons. He's like texting Chris Ballard, like, if you don't hire this dude, you don't care about our football team. It's just like, what? You know?
Hey, number 6 pick. You can say what you want, right?
I guess, man. I also think that sideline scene we saw, I think it happens more than you would think. Obviously, Nelson, I thought what was really interesting about what Nelson said in that scene, and by the way, I've done a breakdown on our website about some things I've learned about Hard Knocks or what I've liked, what I haven't liked.
Mm-hmm.
Now 4 episodes in, it's up on our website, so check that out if you haven't. Nelson specifically said to Reich, I think I have the word right. I believe he said downhill run. Can we call a downhill run for Taylor? I thought that was a way of saying, I don't want that RPO bullshit.
I want to go.
Exactly. I want to know what it is. I don't want Carson checking out of it, and let's go. And I do think there's a lot of validity to that, of those dudes just need to touch the ball. Your best players have got to touch it. I get that it's a numbers game, and it can be a chess match so much, and analytics drive tons of decision-making in the NFL. But at some point, your best against their best, and you see if it can work. I mean, look at Buffalo yesterday. Tough sledding. Eventually, they were able to kind of get to Tampa Bay's defense. I just think that happens around the NFL, especially on a short week and all that. Nelson's nuts, man.
Nuts. I want that. I want that in my lineman.
Dude, I'm not. Trust me. I am not knocking him whatsoever. He has gotten to the level he's gotten acting like that, but he is just different, man. Really, really different.
Let's stick with the play calling from Frank a couple weeks ago with a question from Matt. I know we talked about it a lot, but Matt wants to bring up the fact that, you know, we had the 26 times in a row where we didn't give to Jonathan Taylor. Is there someone else responsible that can step in for Frank Reich? He feels like sometimes we're focused too much on the micro and we need to be focused on the macro. Is that an assistant coach? Yeah. Who steps in there?
No, man, I think it's a really fair question. That was kind of wild to me, Chris, after that Tampa Bay game. Frank didn't know that Taylor hadn't touched it, or had touched it, whatever, 2 times in that span. Like, boy, of all the numbers and all the things people tell you in your ear, I feel like that would be something that you would know. I mean, you got people up in the booth. You've got analytics team. Again, it kind of comes back to my thing with Reich. Brilliant offensive mind, like brilliant. I've laughed off the whole. You shouldn't call plays. I think those are ludicrous debates. I think he gives the Colts an advantage offensively week in and week out, and that's definitely not something I said about the previous regime. The interesting part is, though, the managing of a game and knowing those little intricacies. Like, Reich has so much conviction as well, Chris, and certainly has a lot of conviction towards his quarterback. I am worried about just, like, you know, does he have an open enough mind to kind of deviate from all of those numbers and just incredible conviction? It's a great quality to have, but at times it can lead to not, not being as open-minded. So, but again, I think you guys have long heard me say this. I do think Chris and Frank are the right people for this job. I think at times they've needed to be held more accountable than maybe some others have been willing to do. But at the same time, I do believe that they will get this figured out.
Well, another thing that Chris Ballard is going to have to figure out is a question from Wyatt, Blopa, Matt, and a lot of other people that have written in. Going to condense some of their questions, and I'm sorry that I'm not reading them verbatim from you guys, but they basically all are centered around the fact, Kevin, that Quentin Nelson, as great as he is, he's starting, in some people's minds, to diminish a little bit or be injured. He's coming up on a contract year. How much money do you pay him?
Boy, it's that's a popular question we get a lot, Chris. Fascinating. I can't wait to kind of focus the whole podcast around it in the offseason, which, boy, nothing says I'm a loser like, let's talk about an offensive guard and how much money they should make in the offseason. But here I am. Chris Reed played pretty good ball for you.
Yeah.
I think it does diminish the value of Nelson to most people. I'm not sure if it will in Ballard or Irsay's eyes. I mean, Irsay is, Big Q, man, it's his guy. That's his boy right there, you know. I'm waiting for Big Q to show up on stage at one of these Irsay concerts. Did I see him? Was he rocking a little? Was a cigarette lit? Did you see that video the other weekend?
Of Irsay?
Yeah.
No.
Check that out. Google that. Irsay, I don't know, singing over the weekend. I don't know. Find it. Take a look at it. It was quite the scene there. I'm still waiting for the Irsay feature on Hard Knocks, by the way. But I think they'll pay Nelson. I think his leadership, what he stands for, how he carries himself on the field, off the field, that is really, really important to them. My question, and I don't know if Wyatt or those other ones that sent him in reference it, Chris, but health-wise, the injuries have started to kind of pile up. Now, not to the point of taking him off the field, but what if Nelson becomes a guy that, plays in 11 games, 12 games, like something like that? That would obviously really lessen how much you feel like he deserves. So I still think they will pay him, and they will pay him very, very handsomely. But I think it's a very fine debate to have.
Yeah. Do you think it's one of those debates? And again, these are apples and oranges. Is that what makes the Patriots different? Where sometimes, Richard Seymour, they have these guys, William McGinnis, and they, hey, I love you, but I'm going to let you walk.
Yeah, I think it's a good point you make. Now, there probably are some guys that have fallen in this category. I do think it's different when it's your second contract versus like the Seymours of the world might have been a third contract and kind of north of 30 there. But to your point, and again, Ballard got asked this question at the start of training camp, to the people out there that say you don't pay guards that money, you don't pay off-ball linebackers that money. Ballard's just like, you pay good players, period. I don't care where they play. There's probably some GMs out there that would cringe at hearing that comment. Look at how the draft rolls each year. Mm-hmm. Running backs aren't getting drafted high anymore. Guards aren't getting drafted high. But for what the Colts wanted, and I still think want, they feel like those positions are worthy of it. Comes back to it, man. The books.
That's right.
And if you don't draft well, it's not going to work.
Yeah.
Period.
All right, a big listener of the podcast.
Did you find the Irsay thing?
I did not. I found one from in September, but
maybe
it
was that.
What's the thing is, when you Google Irsay singing, there's a lot of videos now. He's starting to. He's like he went from a caterpillar to a butterfly. Like he's starting to sing a lot in public.
I'll tell you what, man.
There's a lot of them out there.
That's the freshman that stayed in his dorms and then found the right alcohol, and boom. The rest is history.
Gary has a hashtag for us, Desert Island Colts Pod.
Oh.
Bye-week question for you, since now, Kevin,
I
you're
hope that's a good thing. Is
since-
that a good thing, Desert Island Colts Pod?
I mean, I'd love to be in, especially when I landed last night and got off the plane, and they're like, welcome to Minneapolis. It's 34 I was like, oh, God, here we go.
So Gary's dialing us up from
Yeah.
his desert island.
Yes.
I got it. Okay. I thought he meant like we're alone on the desert island because we're so.
No, come on.
I don't know. I was
Not
getting
that you're an
negative.
HBO star, which he mentions in the question. Now that you are an HBO star, Kevin, and having known the Colts in and out by working with them and working here at 93.5, 107.5 The Fan, has anything surprised you, or has there been any insight that you've gained from watching Hard Knocks?
You know, Gary, again, I encourage people to read that article. I've loved Hard Knocks. Loved it. Anything earth-shattering to that point, I don't think anything has been too earth-shattering to me. But, you know, I've got some of my colleagues that are like, this is so boring. Why are we watching this? And I'm like, guys, it's not meant for us.
Mm-hmm.
I teach a class at IU every spring, and I try to tell these students, like, we get to wear a credential to events. That allows you to go places that 99% of the building is not allowed to go. Use your credential. You have access. Like, I do not take for granted the fact that I am able to go behind the scenes and, you know, whatever, even as little as being on a Zoom call with, you know, players and coaches and whatnot. So for whatever, a large portion of the HBO viewing audience, and again, they are reaching people that I never even thought would ever watch Colts content. Like, I have people reaching out to me being like, I'm like, you watched Hard Knocks? Like, that's what that show has turned into. A lot of people just watch it because it's a great show.
It's appointment television almost, yeah.
You're getting to see a team meeting for the first time. You're getting to see a mic'd up position coach room. You get to see Parks Frazier decorate his office with Colts or Christmas decorations. just like a little humanizing stuff. And I got a couple people that are like, oh, good. You know, I can turn on the Disney Channel and see Hard Knocks. All right. They for like 10 minutes every episode are they showing like these players and their babies and whatever, their family life and whatnot.
They're human.
Human, exactly. I think it's absolutely awesome, Gary. I think it's great. If I was directing it, I'd probably want football 24/7. But, like, again, I am the different percentile than everyone else that's watching it. And I just think it's really cool. I think you're getting 45 minutes of very unique content that 31 other fan bases would love to get at a critical juncture of the season. I don't think it's a distraction one bit. I think it's awesome.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I encourage people to check out that article. I got some stuff that stand out to me. I think cinematography of it all is incredible. They make that facility look like it's a palace. It's not. It's a nice facility, but compared to other NFL facilities, it's definitely not at that level. Really cool shots of Indy in general.
Yeah. I love the smokestacks coming into the stadium.
Yeah, the hell, they made White River look like a Hawaiian island coming in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously the behind the scenes, like, position coach stuff, and I like the at home stuff. I do think it's cool. I mean, these players do live in our community. Like, you know, it's not like, oh yeah, well we fly them in from the desert island every day. So yeah, I've been a huge fan of it. We have Steve Trout, the director, on of Hard Knocks every Thursday morning on our radio show. For those that have missed it, feel free to message me or find our podcast, Kevin and Query. So yeah, I've really enjoyed it.
It's also fun to see, like, position coaches like, you know what, I don't know how Zoom works. Whatever. Like, let's
Right.
go.
Yeah.
Come on. I'm too old for this. Like,
Yeah. Am I muted?
yeah, right. Question from Juan. Would you strengthen the wide receiver or secondary group first? Which group would you do via draft and which would you do via free agency? He believes that our biggest weakness, or those are the biggest weaknesses. Thanks as always, and greetings from Colombia.
Oh, what's up, Juan? Thank you for tuning in. Love that. I'd probably lean vet wideout, young outside corner.
Okay.
Probably where I would lean there. Obviously, Rhodes, you know, how much longer is he playing? I think that's a fair question to ask, but that's probably where I would go on. Thank you for that.
All right, a couple more. Jordan, hey, Kevin, do you think the Colts can reach the 40 turnover mark that they had their goals set for last year?
Dude, I laughed at that at the start of the year. I was like, 40 turnovers? No bleeping chance. I believe they're 11 away with 4 games to go. I mean, you put it in those terms, and it's not that outrageous. Now, I still don't think they get there, but it's wild, man, how many turnovers they've been able to produce.
Yeah.
I honestly think it's masked up some other stuff defensively. Leonard, I mean, listening to Belichick today, not a lot of things kind of make him go in awe or pause. He rattled off Leonard's turnover numbers, and he really couldn't find the right words to describe it. And that right there kind of let me know, what Leonard has done this season.
I mean, can you have a bigger compliment than that?
Right, exactly.
From John, Kwity Paye has looked awesome in the last handful of games, but the pass rush still is not where it needs to be, in his opinion. If you're Chris Ballard, do you address that by 1, retaining guys and hoping they develop, 2, making a big swing in free agency, 3, making a big trade, or 4, drafting another pass rusher in the second round?
I don't want to sound overly critical, Chris, but not sure if I'd throw the Kwity Paye's been awesome lately. I think Kwity Paye's been better. I think he's found some sacks. I also think if you look at those sacks specifically, it's not been just like pure edge rush, hand in the dirt, like that left tackle I got no chance on. I think some coverage has helped there. I think some effort has played into it as well. So I just don't want to fall into the trap of like, hey, Colts got a bona fide edge rusher in Kwity Paye, flat out stud. He's doing what Michael Parsons is doing, or whoever else. I mean, you look at some other rookie rushers, not just Parsons, honestly. You look at some other rookie rushers in the league, Ojulari, the Oweh kid, Jalen Phillips, like they all have had better sack numbers than Paye. So I just want to make sure we look at it and just if the right rusher's there, you still need to draft it. You put Paye and that person opposite for the next X amount of years, now you're really talking. So I'm making a big swing in free agency. Again, I don't know the edge rushers in free agency. I thought you had some opportunities this past year, but yeah.
All right, question from Scotty. Our once-a-week Andrew Luck question.
Oh, boy. I'm nervous.
If you had 15 years of peak play, would you want Andrew Luck, Jonathan Taylor?
Oh, Luck.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, that's a no doubt.
If you're getting 15 years of a top 5 quarterback. Yeah.
I feel bad because I feel like we did this a few weeks ago with Taylor and like Edgerrin James. Didn't we have that debate of like who had the better? I mean, Taylor's been a stud, but yeah, it's positional value purely there. Yes. What? Yeah. No. Yeah. Yes.
All right, Kevin, question from Ben. Did Ballard do this defense a great disservice by not trading with the Patriots for Stephon Gilmore? It would have only cost us about a 5th rounder at most, and he's still playing on his old contract. Ben feels like the secondary is pathetic right now.
Ben, I think hindsight's very 2020. Let's go back to the trade deadline. What was your record? I don't think you were in this buy mode at that point. You've got yourself into that position, but I don't think you were necessarily there at that point. So I thought you had to take on a little bit of that contract. I could be wrong on that. And I'm not a big fan of parting ways with draft picks when you're already without your first rounder. So I get what you're saying, Ben, but I'm not going to. No, I'm not ripping Ballard for that.
Kevin, it's only fitting that Louisiana guy wants a little voodoo magic here for you. You have Chris Ballard, Frank Reich, Jim Irsay, and one player of your choice to give a truth vaccine.
Oh, geez.
If you could ask them one question to get the absolute truth, what would you ask? Thanks for the love and the work that you and Chris do weekly.
Well, thank you for that. I do get nervous when you say we have a question and the word vaccine is in it. I'm like, oh, jeez. There goes any chance we had to maintain.
Truth, we'll say serum.
Okay.
How about that?
Okay, so one question to the powers that be?
Yeah.
Dude, How much do you hate Andrew Luck? That's harsh. I mean, the Luck story is one of the wildest ones out there.
Is that going to be that has to be a 30 for 30 at some or whatever that document series is going to be at some point down the road.
Yeah, but if you're doing it, don't expect Andrew Luck to sit in the chair. You're going to have a whole lot of other voices.
It's true.
Telling that story. I mean, I know some of my colleagues that have reached out to him and just are like, dude, time, place, you tell me where, and we will be there, ready for the story.
Barry Sanders has come back. But so do you think after 20, 30 years he starts to kind of come
20,
around,
30, who knows? Luck's probably
But actually, like you said, he might be content
somewhere.
with just see ya.
And I mean, I'm pretty sure he still lives in Indy, which is, I guess, like, if you want me to break it down a little bit more, or say, like, why did you pay him $20 million? Was that purely to think he was coming back? Ballard, it would be, did you have any inkling? I mean, Ballard, I think, was a great reader of people. He had, I mean, I guess Josh McDaniels, I don't know, maybe not, but any inkling. Would Reich have taken this job if Luck wasn't the quarterback? You know, I know they might say, and, you know, Reich has not like had a bunch of suitors going after him, but would he have? Would McDaniels have taken this job if Luck wasn't the quarterback? Would Vrabel be your head coach?
Yeah.
You know, there's so many elements to it all there. So I hate to surround it so much with Luck because I know that there's a lot of people that are like, stop talking about Andrew Luck, but it was just such a monumental moment 2 weeks before the start of the season and has largely shaped Ballard and Reich's tenure that, yeah, that would be the...
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's my truth serum.
I would have wondered about...
Yeah, am I missing something?
No, I would, and this is not with Frank Reich because he wasn't here. I've always wondered, and I know you can't do it, the Bruce Arians, Chuck Pagano.
That's
because you can't. I mean, what Chuck went through, you can't say.
Yeah, 4 games into his head coaching career, you aren't going to fire him.
But man, Bruce Arians, the way that he led that offense and what he's done since.
No, I think that's a really good point. I've got about 5 minutes before Frank Reich conference call, so let's. What do we got? 3 or 4 more?
Yep. Frank Reich, Chris Ballard done receiving or what have they done to receive an extension? We got 3 more.
Yeah, I've long been on the record they should not have received an extension. I can say that and still acknowledge I think they're both really good at their jobs and will get it done, but yeah, in no way, shape, or form did they deserve the extensions that they got.
All right, Garrett wants to know, and this is going to be stingful for you. Any thoughts on the recent Chase Claypool immaturity, and is this the reason the Colts did not have them on the radar to select him?
Oh, that was so idiotic, man. You know, he's always kind of been a too cool for school, which I get it. He's insanely gifted.
Very.
But, yeah, he's always kind of been that way, even at Notre Dame a little bit. What year? Is this Claypool's 3rd year? Was he Paris Campbell's draft?
This is his second? No, this is his, I don't know. They all run together.
Yeah. I think, like, probably just skill set. You know, they probably wanted a little bit quicker guy. Well, is it second? Or him and Pittman in the same draft?
I think they were, right?
Yeah, because I know they work out together, so maybe they were. I think Pittman was just steadier. You know, Claypool was pretty raw as a wideout. Pittman, obviously, you're seeing it. He was pretty steady there. So, yeah, I'm sure it had a little bit to do with it, Garrett. I don't think, like, Claypool was off the Colts board or anything like that. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
Last question, we're going to circle back around to the wide receivers and a topic that we talked about earlier. Assuming the Colts make the playoffs and we give up the first-round pick, 2022 pick will be outside of the top 50. No way we get David Bell because he's not going to fall that far, correct?
Yeah, I mean, you just read off those numbers earlier, Chris. I don't know. He's not going to test great compared to the other wideouts. That's just reality. Like, he's just not. That's not. Again, I've made the comparison to Reggie Wayne. Reggie Wayne wasn't a great tester, and yet had an unbelievable career. So, you know, I think, you know, Pittman, I guess, is a good example. He's what, 7th wideout, 6th wideout taken, and went 34 overall. So, I don't know if you're the 6th or 7th wideout, you probably still will go somewhat high. Yeah, that's good debate. I like Bell a lot. I don't know if wide receiver might be that pressing.
Yeah.
I don't know.
And it all depends where everything falls, you know. It's a puzzle piece.
Got to see how other things play out there, but my guess is David Bell goes like 44 overall.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he's playing against I don't know if he's playing
some
the
of the
bowl
Notre
game.
Dame guys opted out. Kyle Hamilton and Kyron Williams. I don't know about Purdue guys officially yet. George Karlaftis being the other one who will be a very high pick.
Yes. All right, well, Kev's got to go talk to Frank Reich. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Again, Colts did not lose this week. We got some help from the Bills and the Bengals. Kevin, anything else you want to add on?
No, we'll be back Monday. Again, recapping Saturday game the next couple weeks, but we'll be back Monday with another edition of Kevin's Corner. Soak it up, Indy. Enjoy it. It's going to be awesome on Saturday night, and we'll talk to you next week.
This has been Kevin Bowen. Thank you for listening to another edition of Kevin's Corner. If you haven't already, subscribe on iTunes or Stitcher for the best Colts and Pacers coverage.